and I did my annotation on improving communication in the South African healthcare context. This was written in the African Journal of Health Professions Education, and it was written by Matthews and Van Wyk in 2018. I decided to do this article because I really relate to communication and healthcare because at one point I was in healthcare. The purpose of the article was to find suggestions from students and educators on how to improve communication in healthcare, mostly in the teaching and learning aspects. A few of the key concepts I found was communication, healthcare, and medical school. Communication, which we all know is the act of sending and receiving information through any platform. Healthcare is the field of work that they base the study off of, and medical school is where the students and educators came from. I feel like the article was very well written. It was a little brief, so I felt like there could have been more information, maybe from the study itself or more background information on where the thought of this study came from. I do think they positioned their research proposal among any research published before theirs, and they used a case study, which in this case study they had two groups, a focus group discussion and a semi-structured interview. They used medical students who were in their final years, educators who taught in the medical field, a family practitioner, a hospital manager, and someone from the Department of Health. They were then instructed to make any suggestions with no consequences. This whole process between the focus group and the interviews took about 135 minutes, give or take. In the end, the study was put together to find ways of improving communication in learning and teaching. The first concern that most people had was that the language barriers, because even though people are in South Africa, different parts of South Africa speak differently, just like any other culture or place. You know, there's different languages, different ways of forming and pronunciation. So a lot of people had issues with that. The second issue was cultural differences, because people, like I said, with the whole language barriers, there's different cultures no matter where you are, and some people are from there and have different cultures than someone from one section and another, and some people might not even be from there at all and have a complete different culture. When it came to communication as the first concept, it was finding and representing the missing pieces on how communication is learned at medical school in South Africa. With healthcare, the point of the study was just to find suggestions to help with health-related care, and most of it was based off of medical school. The students, the educators came from the school. I mean, of course, they added extra people who were already in the medical field to assist in the research, but most of it was based off of students and how to improve through education. I feel like their conclusion was related. Literally, the first thing that they said in the conclusion was that language and cultural differences were the biggest barriers. And I do think that the conclusion was good. I do feel it was a little short and that the authors could have maybe added a little more, but it did put the point across that it needed to, so it wasn't that bad. I think the study itself was important and that the researchers did really well at interviewing and getting the information they needed from the correct people. They made sure to use a diverse group of people, which best represents more students and faculty. And I like how they pulled people from different aspects in life to put into the study. For my suggestions, if somebody wanted to take the research further, I would either say find forms of improving this process, take the suggestions and the issues they had in this one and go further by finding specific ways to solve those problems and then possibly implementing them into an actual classroom or teaching environment to test them compared to what they were learning before. I guess a good one to start with would be a survey to even find out how many people feel the same way about this and maybe see if anybody else has any suggestions on ways to implement it rather than just suggestions on what needs fixed. And all in all, I did like it and I had a great time reading it. Thank you.